it's the world we live in. You have a state legislator in Texas who's talking about arresting Democrats and who sees his only job as doing what Donald Trump wants him to do. I mean, we need to get more seats for Donald Trump, for Donald Trump's, MAGA agenda. It's crazy. There is for Republicans, there's no moral high ground here. Just like when Democrats do this in their states, there's no moral high ground for them there. But here, people talking, at least that guy was being honest. He is nothing but a servant for Donald Trump and not people in his own district. But what's happening here and what happens with gerrymandering is the undermining of the very American concept of one person, one vote. One person, one vote. These districts are going to be so gerrymandered that Democrats and Republicans could have a 50-50 split in vote totals in the state of Texas, just like they have in the state of Wisconsin. And you could have congressional seats swinging 70%, 75% one way. It's what happened in Wisconsin. Republicans starting after the 2010 elections, working hard to gerrymander Wisconsin. So even when Democrats split the vote in Wisconsin, Republicans still had almost a super majority in the state legislature. It's not democratic. It's not American. It's an un-American concept. It departs from the one person, one vote concept that we've had in this country. And so, again, these Republicans can do what they want to do. At the end of the day, they're just going to force California's hand and other blue states' hands. And so it's going to make democracy more unrepresentative across the board and across the states. This is a terrible idea, and this is why you usually only reapportion after a census every 10 years.
Exactly. That's what's different here. Reverend Al Sharpton, still with us. Joining the conversation, we have NBC News national affairs analyst and partner and chief political columnist at Puck, John Heilman, and Pulitzer Prize-winning author and presidential historian, Doris Kearns Goodwin. I can't wait to hear from Doris, but John, I just want to start with you on the politics of this. Where do you see this going?
To hell, Mika, I think is where I see it going. I'm struck by this language of mutually assured destruction because, of course, mutually assured destruction rests on the notion that you have two rational actors on each side and that the arms that they have are roughly equal. So, I could destroy your country, you could destroy my country. So we both recognize that it's in our interest not to launch a first strike. What you have here is something totally different, which is you're on this escalation ladder where Republicans don't think that Democrats have the firepower to be able to destroy them because Republicans right now control the majority of state legislatures, control the majority of governorships, control the majority of seats in the House, seats in the Senate, and the White House. Joe has pointed out 100 times and has pointed out this morning that, of course, that is not a fixed thing. That could change 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 years from now. But in the meantime, you have Republicans thinking that they don't have a price to pay for doing what they're doing. And this comes back to the question, again, something Joe just said a minute ago, which is these things used to happen. Usually we do them around the census every 10 years. That is another illustration of the difference between laws and norms. And what we've learned in the Trump era is that things that a lot of normal people thought were laws, that this somehow was written down somewhere, that redistricting happened every 10 years with the census. Turns out that's not true. Turns out it's a norm. And what has happened in the course of the Trump era is that the president and his party have decided there's very little price to pay politically for violating norms. As long as it's not against the law. Now, they violate some laws, too. But as long as it's not against the law, their attitude is, well, we're just going to do what we want to do here and see if anybody's going to try to stop us. And I don't see an end to this. I think the escalation ladder, I think Republicans are going to do what they're going to do here. I don't see who's going to blink in this fight. And I think it just it's driving us towards a place where all of the problems that we confront in terms of polarization are just going to get worse and worse and worse as these states get more and more gerrymandered rather than less and less.
Yeah, you know, and what goes around comes around again. And it's, John, it's as if these Republicans think they're going to be in power forever. I remember during the Clinton impeachment process when some of the more extreme moves were being suggested. I remember laughing and saying to some of my fellow Republican members, I go, you all are acting as if there will never be a Republican president in the White House again. And be very careful. The standards that you set for Bill Clinton today will be set for a Republican president in the coming years. And, John, what is so, again, insane about this, and so insane about the political norms and the constitutional norms that Republicans are happily breaking right now, all the things that they're doing, they're acting as if they're always going to be the majority. They're just not.
Right.
You look back over the past 25 years, there is a constant reshuffling every 2, every 4 years. And what are they going to do when a progressive president who may not have America's best interests in mind, but have her or his interests, selfish interests, like certain Republican presidents, decides to turn all of this on Republicans, decides to turn all of this on conservatives? What even a greater threat than that is what happens when a billionaire, megalomaniac, who owns, let's say, a monopoly in Silicon Valley, decides to run as an independent. Right. And decides to trample on the rights of Republicans and Democrats alike. What happens then? What do? They use the precedents that are being laid out here every day by this Republican Congress that sits back every day and allows political norms and constitutional norms to be broken. Am I right now talking about what Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress are doing affecting us today? No, I'm not. I'm talking about what I've seen over the past 30 years in Washington, D.C., what comes around, goes around, comes around, goes around, and they will rue the day, Republicans will rue the day that they have sat back and bankrupted this country, cut health care, breached constitutional norms, breached political norms, breached all of these norms that, again, are going to be breached in the future either by a progressive president against conservatives or an independent megalomaniac president against both sides.
That's a highly rational view of the situation, Joe, and I agree with you. In the last 30 years, there have been a lot of cases where what has gone around has come around. But here's the difference. And you can't say this without sounding partisan, but I'll say it anyway. There's never been a Democratic president or a Democratic Congress that has openly campaigned and then governed by the principle of I am your retribution. What has gone around sometimes has come back around. Yeah. But I'm just saying what Republicans are banking on now is that Democrats will do what Democrats have often done in the past, which is to say that they will do to Republicans what Republicans have done to them. And then when they get in power, say, we respect norms and we have to play by the rules. We want to do the right thing. And the cold-eyed view of this is that Democrats, this is what Beto O'Rourke has been saying for the last month, Democrats constantly want to win the argument, want to do what's right, want to respect institutions, want to respect the norms and the laws and the Constitution, and Republicans want power. And Republicans don't care about the rest of that stuff when it comes right down to it. And Beto O'Rourke's position is Democrats have to start actually doing what Republicans do, which is being ruthless and caring about power and not caring about being right or being good or being seen as being on the side of democratic norms. I'm not going to take a position in that fight, but I will say that in the game theory of this is what Republicans are betting. Republicans are betting that what goes around won't come around. And the Democrats in the end, when they get power...
Because Democrats are weak. Because Democrats are weak. They don't know how to fight. They don't know how to fight. They're weak.
That's what Republicans think.
They've always been weak. You have to go back to Bill Clinton, who said it's better to be strong and wrong than weak. Because you lose when you're weak. And we've seen it time and time again. Barack Obama, he could be tough. He knew how to throw some people under the bus when he needed to. But, you know, during Joe Biden's term, it was such BS. I'm actually cleaning up my language for this morning. I guess because Doris is here and she